The Secrets of Star Trek is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to Secrets of Star Trek, where we discuss the hidden layers and deeper meanings found in all the Star Trek TV series, movies, and more. And today we're discussing the final episode of the second season of Star Trek Lower Decks, called First Contact. And joining me today on the panel are Father Cory Sticha. Hi, Father Cory.
How's it going, Dom?
Very good, thanks. And Jimmy Akin. Hi, Jimmy.
Howdy, Dom.
Folks, stick around to the end of the episode.
Okay, so wait. So you say, hi, Father Cory.
Yes.
He says, how's it going?
Yes.
And you reply, very well, thanks.
Yes.
Then you say to me, hi, Jimmy. I say, howdy, Dom. Howdy is a contraction of how do you do?
Oh, okay.
And yet you don't say very well, thanks.
Well,
what's this? Is this clericalism? Are you taking Father Cory's greeting more seriously and treating mine less
Father
literally?
Cory can be a bishop someday. I mean, come on. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, no.
Well,
Let's cut this whole part out. We don't want
No, keep it in. This will be great listening.
So it did not cross my mind that howdy was a question, just a how do, like how do, and moving on, hello, so I will.
Well, how do is also a question, but no, actually what I'm needling you about is the surprisingly literal response to Father Cory's greeting, because normally how's it going does not require a response.
I know, I feel
it's a similar thing.
When someone says how's it going to me, just in general in life, I always feel like I have to say I'm well, thank you. It's just, I think my parents raised me in that way, but.
Okay, well, at most, a normal person would say great and move on.
I know.
Yep.
But see, now that you've told me that howdy means how do you do, now I'm going to feel obligated.
Do not. I hereby de-obligate you for the rest of time on behalf of everyone who says howdy.
I will endeavor to be less polite. In any case, folks, stick around to the end of the episode. We have lots of listener feedback from our previous episodes. We've actually been getting some great feedback from you all, and we want to go over that and share that with you. We also want you to be sure to share the podcast with your friends. Help us grow this community of listeners. Yes, the second season of Lower Decks is ending. We've got lots of great Star Trek to be talking about very soon. Not only are we going to be talking about the classic series, but we're also going to be talking about Star Trek Prodigy, another new animated Star Trek series, very soon, like in a couple weeks. So be sure to let other people know about it and help us grow this community. We also want to tell you about another show that's on the Star Quest Network that you'll enjoy, called Secrets of Movies and TV Shows. And that's where we talk about all kinds of movies and shows that don't fit into our regular single topic shows. And so we talk about things like recently we've been talking about Dune, the various iterations of the Dune movies, including one crazy wild concept from the 70s by this guy named Jodorowsky. You've got to listen to that one. It is insane. It's very 70s. And we've got a lot of other great shows that we've been talking about recently. So check it out wherever you find podcasts or at sqpn.com/secrets. All right, Jimmy, can you recap for us this final episode of the second season?
This week, Lower Decks throws us a curveball by giving us a second season finale that has almost nothing to do with the Pakled War we've been exploring all season. Instead, Captain Freeman receives a promotion and is scheduled to leave the ship, but her final mission is to accompany another ship on a first contact mission to a new race, despite the fact that the Cerritos is assigned to do second contacts. When we arrive in the alien system, the other ship is disabled by a freak disaster, and the Cerritos crew must undertake dangerous procedures to save the other ship from crashing into the first contact planet, which is never a great way to make first contact. No. As they do this, the lower deckers must confront various personal challenges. Mariner must confront the fact that she's actually grown to enjoy her mother's presence and doesn't want her to leave. Rutherford must confront the fact that he's afraid of deleting backup memories of his friendship with Tendi. Tendi must confront the fact that she's afraid Dr. Ta'ana will transfer her out of sickbay, and Boimler almost drowns trying to save the two ships from the impending calamity. But eventually, both ships are saved. Tendi learns that Dr. Ta'ana is actually recommending her for training as the bridge science officer. She's so impressed with her. Captain Freeman completes the first contact, her first contact, because she's only done second contacts up to now, and decides to turn down the promotion and stay with the Cerritos. And then the hammer drops, and Captain Freeman is suddenly arrested for destroying the Pakled planet Pakled, despite the fact that we know she had nothing to do with its destruction. We're thus set up for the trial of Captain Freeman in Season 3 and more information about the Klingon-inspired Pakled War.
Right. Excellent. That's a good summary. And there's plenty to discuss because I want to mention the ship that the Cerritos is assigned to accompany, not the ship itself, because I know Jimmy doesn't care, but Jimmy doesn't care about ships, but about the captain of that ship, Captain Sonia Gomez. That is the same character and actress as Ensign Sonia Gomez from the TNG episode Q Who, as well as another one she was in. But she's the one who, the engineering crewman who accidentally spilled hot chocolate on Captain Picard as his first impression of her. So she has a habit of having bad first impressions.
Wow. I'm going to have to go back and watch that.
That's awesome.
Yes, that was a good one. And in fact, Sonia Gomez, there was some, I remember at the time, some talk about, is she going to be like a love interest for Geordi or something along those lines? She wasn't, but she was kind of popular. She showed up a couple times as this third tier crew member who had lines. But it's the same actress too, which was fun. There was a point in this episode where a crew member on her bridge falls or does something, makes a mistake, and she helps her up and says, "Don't worry, I've also made big errors in front of somebody that was very intimidating." And I'm like, what is that about? Because they just kind of left
more
it there.
More intimidating captains. Yeah.
Yes. And so I had to go look it up, and it turns out, yes, that's what that was a reference to. So
very cool.
Lower Deck still mining the jewels of TNG or of all Star Trek. So that was good.
But I do want to mention the ship briefly, because although Jimmy's not interested, I know Dom, you and I are.
I love ships.
Yeah, and it's really cool. It's called the Ubena Class, and it actually was named for Tolan Ubena, who is an art director on Lower Decks.
Yep.
He was art director this season. But it's an Excelsior class, looking all sovereign class, as Captain Freeman put it in Season 1.
Right.
So it's based off the Excelsior class, but it's got like the saucer and the nacelles of the sovereign class.
It's a bit
I think
of
it
a
looks
mashup.
cool.
Yeah, it is.
I
Cool.
think it looks cool.
Yeah, it is cool. It's the Archimedes. So.
Yep.
You mentioned to me that
Spaceships are wheels.
spaceships, yes,
Hey,
they are vehicles for
with
getting
all
us to the plot device.
For all the trouble I've had with tires over this past year, wheels are extremely important.
They are. Yeah.
And worth talking about.
So you mentioned that they're at the starbase. Admiral Freeman, who is Captain Freeman's husband and Mariner's dad, is there.
Yeah, and for once he's on screen, not just on screen.
Right. He's in person. And she's getting this promotion. This becomes a kind of a big deal. Mariner kind of finds out ahead of time.
Notice they've seeded that throughout the season. They've been hinting that she's like looking for a promotion, because she keeps alluding throughout these episodes to wanting to do really well and stuff.
Right. And so Mariner overhears that she's getting this promotion and blabs to the other senior crew, who are all upset that she didn't tell them first, because she didn't get a chance. But she's also been told she's not going to be able to take her senior crew with her. They're Cali class bridge crew, not whatever top of the line ship bridge crew.
Yeah, and I wonder about like how real militaries do that. I don't know if Father Cory has any insights on this, but when someone gets promoted to captain, or when a captain gets transferred, I should say, I I don't
No.
think they typically get to take anybody with them.
No.
No, it's at least in my experience in the Air Force, at least when we would get a new commander, he wouldn't bring in his secretary or his second in command or anything like that. It was he was the new commander, and the people who were already in the unit would just work under him instead of under the previous one. Now, and I think the Navy is kind of the same way. Is just because you get a new captain doesn't mean that his XO goes with him.
It's a Star Trek thing because you've got to keep the cast that you're paying under contract, around.
Well, and that's why we never have any captains transferred in the middle of a season.
Right. And why Riker refuses the natural promotion to captain after 6 years as XO. Right. So Freeman get this promotion. There's this conflict between her and the senior crew, but also with Mariner.
I like the fact we had another incident with Jennifer the Andorian. Is because she and Mariner run into each other in the hallway, and it seems like they're patching up their relationship. That
eventually,
and Jennifer's like, I don't care, don't worry about it, not a big deal. I also like when they're doing the emergency procedures to save the Archimedes, they have to put on these spacesuits, which are the same spacesuits from Star Trek First Contact. They're the sort of white hard plastic looking spacesuits. And for Jennifer the Andorian, they've got these little knobs in the top of her space helmet for her antennas to fit into.
Yeah, the first time Mariner and Jennifer end up having that conflict in the hall in the corridor, Mariner says something along the lines of, "You just hate me. I know you do." And Jennifer has the best comeback, which I've heard in other contexts, which is, "I don't think about you at all." Oh man, that is a good burn. So I'm gonna have to file that away to use it later.
They actually play that out really well though, because it turns out that they're mutually misunderstanding each other.
Right.
That Jennifer thought Mariner hated her. Mariner thought Jennifer hated her, and it turns out that both of them were just mixed signals.
Yeah,
and I like Mariner's "shut up, let's go."
I had that happen with a coworker once, where she said to me, "Look, you don't like me, and I don't like you," and I was like, "I like you. I don't know why you think I don't like you." And then we were friends after that. So I've been in Mariner's shoes or Jennifer's shoes.
Meanwhile, Boimler is getting ready for Captain Freeman Day. And he's making decorations for Captain Freeman Day as if he were a 5-year-old. And Mariner points out, isn't that just a vanity holiday to trick kids into respecting the captain?
Right. Yeah. A reference to the Captain's Day, the TNG episode with Captain
Picard Day. Yeah.
That, yes. I think it is funny to see Boimler making these decorations to impress the captain, and the rest of the crew that's for the kids, in the crew family kids. Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah. Well, I got a kick out of that because Rutherford, he's having problems with his implants, which we find out his memory's full. And he's like, "Hey, can you take my shift on the station ops so I can go get this fixed?" "Oh no, I'm too busy doing these decorations."
Right.
Yeah. I also really sympathize with Rutherford in this because he's getting pop-up ads.
Yes, pop-ups
He's a pop-up blocker.
Yes. I have been there with the pop-ups that you can't get rid of, and they won't go away.
It's interfering with his ability to walk through the corridors. He's got so many pop-ups happening.
Right.
Yeah.
And that kind of screen spam is just a great bit of meta humor because of the way we have to encounter it today.
Right. Yep. Right. Mariner decides that the best way to get Freeman to stay is to turn her senior staff against her, and I'm kind of wondering why anyone would think that would be effective. I think that would kind of drive her away, but she's not thinking rationally.
I thought Mariner was just lashing out and wanting payback because she didn't want her mom to leave.
Yeah, in fact, at the end, that's kind of what she says. I didn't want you to leave, and her mom says, "I don't want to leave you," which is a very nice moment. So we get to see the captain's yacht with the much rumored that TNG had a captain's yacht on the Enterprise D, and we get to see.
They even designed it. They just never built it and showed it to us. It was Captain Picard's yacht was called the Calypso.
Yes. And Tendi and Rutherford were hiding out there for reasons, and
they were revisiting all of Tindy's favorite places because they thought she was going to get transferred off the Cerritos.
Right. That's right.
And they probably went down there because the replicators can make ice cream. They're eating ice cream cones when Mariner and Freeman came in. So
because the lower deck replicators don't make good food. But the funny thing is,
at one point, Rutherford suggests, let's go someplace off limits. And that's when they go to the captain's yacht. But they decide to go there rather than the rubber ducky room. So the rubber ducky room is also off limits.
Yeah,
you just want to know what the rubber ducky room is and why it's off limits.
So, and the funny thing is Freeman and Mariner never take the captain's yacht out. Like they just, so the idea is they have to go rescue the Archimedes because this planetoid exploded, and it's made of this material that if it touches anything that's energized, that has energy running through it, it'll suck it dry, and which is what happened to the Archimedes. It's no energy at all.
And this is visually, this is like when the moon Praxis blows up in Star Trek VI.
Yeah,
it feels like a replay of that.
Yes, they have to traverse this new asteroid field, say.
And like all asteroid fields in TV and movie science fiction, it is ridiculously overstuffed with asteroids.
Yes,
yeah,
it is incredibly dense. So Rutherford,
this is a newly formed one, so you might have a reasonable excuse on that.
Yes,
but
it just exploded. But yeah. So Rutherford comes up with a plan, which is they're going to fly through this field, but they're going to remove all the hull panels from the Cerritos so that because the hull panels are energized with the deflector stuff, the shielding. So if you remove all the hull panels, they won't
polarize the hull plating. Yeah,
exactly. But won't all the stuff underneath be full of energy too?
Well, I was gonna say they shut down all the systems, so I guess that's the reason why
they were going to coast through. I guess, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is probably a good point for the MST3K mantra. It's just a show. I should really just relax.
Yeah.
Yes, you're both absolutely right.
Yeah. Don't poke too many holes at this one.
and even though I'm not particularly interested in starship design, I am particularly interested in animation. Yeah. And I really liked the animation of both the Archimedes and the Cerritos in this episode because they're doing 3D computer animation of them. And it's really impressive on-screen graphics. There's a moment where the Archimedes comes into the system and then turns, and you have this rotating CGI of this ship, and it just looks gorgeous. And then they give us this alternate version of the Cerritos where they've stripped off all the hull plating, and you get to see this kind of stripped, undercarriage of the ship, and it looks great.
Oh yeah.
And so I really wanted to compliment the animators on that.
Yes.
Yeah, they
it's
did a really
like
good
Shaxx, if they don't do the good animation, you're lucky I'm so spiritual, because if I wasn't so spiritually centered, I could snap.
Yeah.
That was a good line. Mariner tells Freeman that she ends up telling her that she's mad at her for leaving and for saying she lacks confidence, which is funny because Mariner, if anything, she exudes an air of confidence, and so there's this idea that she's putting on this shell to appear confident.
And I think they've acknowledged that a number of times this season, that Mariner is not as confident as she projects.
Mm-hmm.
We also
she even tries to call herself like a Kirk. Like she's like Captain Kirk, where she's got all this confidence, and Freeman's like, "No, you're not. You just complain a lot."
Yes, right. So we also get a little hint at Rutherford has a backstory for his implant.
Because we find out the reason his thing is full, and it shouldn't be. He should be able to just let his memories be in the cloud or something. But he's been saving 3 backup copies of all of his memories because he's afraid of losing his memory of his friendship with Tindy again.
Yes.
And so he's like been tripling. Well, okay, dude, if it's been a year and you've already filled up your drive, it was going to fill up in 4 years anyway.
Right.
You need a bigger drive, or you need to be uploading to the cloud or something. But when he's finally convinced to delete the excessive backups he's making, or you need to periodically download or something, dude. This is a 20th century problem. You should have this down.
Yes.
But he has a vision briefly of some, it's fuzzy video, but it appears that his implant was not installed as elective surgery. That this was forced on him, and then his memory of it being forced on him was suppressed. So there's some kind of conspiracy involving his visor. So this may be a situation of, let's get a spy into Starfleet by giving him a prosthetic device that we can use.
I wonder if it's going to be a Section
31, maybe.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we also get a look at the long referred to cetacean ops pool.
Yay! How awesome and impractical is that?
That's right. I mean, we've heard since TNG that there I think were hints at the idea that there were sentient cetaceans like dolphins or something who acted as navigators and aboard various starships. And so now we're getting a look at it, and they had cetacean ops listed on like the blueprints for the Galaxy class ships in TNG. That's right. That's right. And so there's a release pin. There's one hull plate that won't release from the outside. So someone has to go into the cetacean pool and release it from the inside. And so that's Boimler. He elects to go, and of course he gets stuck, and then his suit springs a leak, and he almost drowns, as you mentioned, Joey.
But we get to see the cetaceans. There's some dolphins down there, and they work down there, and they are chittering to the lower deckers as they come down to try to get that plate to release, and they help out Boimler as he's stuck and having problems. And we get subtitles. You know, they're doing the squeaky noises,
right?
In the soundtrack, but then we get subtitles of what they're saying. And when they bring Boimler back, they're saying, he's not breathing, his blowhole's broken, don't let him dry out, spray him with water. and then after they've like given him CPR or whatever, you know, to artificial respiration to get air back in his lungs, they say, nothing like saving your friend, then going skinny dipping. which actually isn't unrealistic for dolphins to request of humans.
To go skinny dipping together.
I won't elaborate on that, but that is not unrealistic of what dolphins might request from humans.
That's funny.
That's funny. Let us not elaborate too much on that.
Well, I got a kick how I think it was Boimler asked, how can they, or Mariner asked, well, why can't the dolphins go down and pull this, you know, this panel, and they get all offended because it wasn't made for flippers.
Right.
But of course, you know, typical Star Trek, it's in the most inaccessible, obscene place possible. I mean, just ridiculous place possible where this manual release is located.
It's very Galaxy Quest of them for putting it in there. So Mariner has to go out. She gets blown out. So they take out the view screen on the bridge so that they can look out the front as Ransom manually steers the ship somehow. And so Jennifer and Mariner sort of guide him by eye through this asteroid field. And at one point, Mariner falls out, and she's going to be float off to die until Jennifer, the Andorian, comes and saves her. And that's that moment where she saves her, and they reconcile or show that they're not enemies. They eventually do get to
they at one point when it looks like they're going to crash, they talk about moving to the back of the ship because if you move to the back of the ship, there's a chance you'll survive. Okay. The airlines here in the United States, and I believe everywhere, will not release data about where the safest part of the plane is. But obviously some parts are going to be more safe than others. You know, for example, the part that crashes into the ground first is probably one of the more dangerous places to be.
Yes.
And Popular Mechanics has done a study, this was years ago, but if you're concerned about a plane crash, sit in the back. Also, because the front part of the spaceship goes into the ground first.
Yes.
This was something that I had not realized. Father Cory may be familiar with this, though. I was interviewing the physicist and paranormal researcher, Dr. Edwin May, and for Mysterious World, and this happened to come up, the subject of what's the safest way to fly. And he pointed out that there is a change that the airlines could make that would save lots of lives, but they refuse to make it. Turn the seats around.
Yes.
Right.
Because if you're facing forward and the plane is going forward, your seatbelt can cut you in half.
Yep.
But if you just turn them around, that's not going to happen because your back is going to go into the seat. You're not going to be flung forward against that seatbelt that could harm you. And in fact, military flights do this.
Yes.
So,
Also,
the military is more safety conscious than Pan Am and the other commercial carriers.
This is why infant car seats also face backwards. For that, so also you don't snap the neck. That's the other thing. Is
the airlines don't want to turn around because they think people are going to be uncomfortable that way, and there might be people that
we're already uncomfortable.
I know. It could actually cause motion sickness for some people. But I've actually flown a military space available flight, several of them, where that was just like that. So when I was in the Air Force had the C9, which was the military medevac version of the DC-9. The McDonnell Douglas DC-9, and I flew that space available multiple times because the base I was stationed at was the headquarters for those planes here in the United States, and so it was a free way to get home to visit. And all the space available seats were in the back of the plane. You entered through the tail, like the back steps on the DC-9, and they were backwards. They were facing the rear of the plane, and it was for that reason.
Yeah, and for people who might get motion sickness if they're backwards, they can have a special no vomiting section that's facing forward.
I just want to be sedated and stacked in there like in a shelf.
Yeah.
I want when we get there.
Priest there on the runway, hear my confession, give me the anointing of the six, I get sedated, they put me on the plane, and I wake up at the destination.
Exactly.
They have sleep dentistry. Let's have sleep flying.
I'm sure they'll do that some point.
And bonus, they can fit more people on the plane.
Yeah.
So back to Star Trek. So the Archimedes obviously gets rescued last second, blah, 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 the usual thing. Freeman gets to make the first contact with the Leparians, who turned out to be not only very welcoming, they are kind of party animals. And Freeman shows up back on the ship after having one too many Leparian martinis or something as she gets back there.
She's doing her whole, on behalf of the Federation of Planets, la, la, la. Let's drink.
Yes, right. And then when she gets back to the ship, there's a bunch of Starfleet types there. And she's like, oh, you didn't have to come all this way to congratulate me and to take me away to my new promotion. But I am going to turn it down. And they're like, we're not here to promote you. We're here to arrest you, as Jimmy mentioned. And so she's arrested for destroying Pac-Led Planet and accused of colluding with Klingons to plant a Veruvian bomb, the same one that the Pac-Leds had tested, or evidently a different one than the Pac-Leds had tested out. So evidently someone is framing Freeman for destroying Pac-Led Planet.
And this episode has given us a double inversion based on everything we'd seen up to this episode. We would have expected this to deal with the Klingon War or the Pac-Led War. And instead, it inverts our expectations and gives us this first contact adventure mission. And then at the end, it inverts it again. And nobody could have seen Captain Freeman being arrested. That had not been set up. It's consistent with what we've seen before. So that's fine. I don't mind it as a twist, but we've had like a double inversion of expectations here.
Yes.
Yep.
There's no way we could have predicted what this episode was going to be about, which it's different than what we had been led to expect. There's no way we could predict what we got. And then they threw it back to the subject of what we'd been expecting, the Pac-Leds, but again, in a way we could not predict. So those are good twists in my mind.
Yeah,
Yes.
they did a good job with this, setting this all up so it just came out of left field.
Yeah.
Didn't expect it at all, and it was great. They did a good job with it.
Good misdirection.
Of course, now it rounds up the expectation for next season,
Yes.
which hopefully will come sooner rather than later.
Right.
I got a kick out of when Boimler was brought out of the pool and they were able to get him breathing again. He wakes up. He said, I saw a koala. And that was in reference to last season's episode, Moist Vessel, where the lieutenant did a spiritual ascension. Why is there a koala? Why is he smiling? What does he know?
Turns out it was a drop bear.
And he says, don't mention, you don't want to mention that because she's the one who was there when he ascended.
Right.
There was that episode of Voyager, right, where Captain Janeway met a koala that turned out to be a drop bear, right?
Yeah. Was a spared animal.
Of course, when they're manually flying the Cerritos to get the joystick control, like Riker and was it Insurrection, where except for at least the commander was sitting instead of standing.
That's right.
And then the panel couplers that were the same ones that were used on First Contact, where they removed the deflector dish.
Yep.
It was the same type of control where you had to punch a few buttons and it pops up and you twist and turn, and completely impractical, but that's normal.
Jimmy,
any final notes?
So now that we know that Billups is from the Ren Fair planet, they've given him they're letting that affect things. He curses at one point in this episode, and his curse is dragon's blood.
Yes.
Also, I liked when Dr. Ta'ana tells Tendi that she's recommending her for training as the bridge science officer. Tendi is thinking, like Jadzia Dax? And Dr. Ta'ana is like, who's that? I meant like Spock.
Right. That is good. That was good. Different generations. All right. So that does it for Lower Decks season 2 and this episode. I did mention we have listener feedback, so I want to share some of that with you. Kelly Brown wrote on Facebook about our most recent episode we discussed, which was Wedge Douche, which she says that this was, I think it was Wedge Douche, was it?
Yeah.
That was the last one.
Last one.
This was probably my favorite episode of the entire season. It was funny, but it also advanced the plot in a clever way. I loved at the end when all of the story threads came together. The punitive spirituality line was my favorite. One thing I can say about Lower Decks that I can't say about Discovery or any of the new treks is that I want to rewatch Lower Decks. I love rewatching old episodes of TNG and DS9, but not so much Picard and especially Discovery. For me, Lower Decks is a lot like the older Trek shows in that I enjoy rewatching them. I do disagree with Jimmy on one thing. He referred to the Vulcan Lower Decker as a Boimler. I think she's much more like Mariner than Boimler. As Mariner breaks regulations to get the job done, so does this Vulcan officer. I guess that the punitive spirituality of the Vulcan ship is their version of the brig. Great discussion. I understand why you guys don't want to discuss Discovery every week when the new season starts. I really don't want to watch it when it comes out, even though I probably will eventually.
Yeah, and I agree with Kelly. I don't want to watch it, but I probably will eventually once it's all out. In terms of the multiple Boimlers, I did that for a couple reasons. I recognize that it's debatable. I saw other people online doing it, and to me, the Vulcan Lower Decker was less like Boimler. Or less obviously like Boimler than the Klingon one was. But to keep it consistent, and because I'd seen other people doing it, I thought I'd do that also just because it's funny.
Yeah.
But actually, I think, I recognize that the Vulcan Lower Deckers, it's funny. I didn't want to introduce their names because it would be hard in the plot summary for people to instantly remember these names. So I needed to call them something descriptive of their function in the plot that would be familiar. But I could have said the Vulcan Lower Decker or the Klingon Lower Decker, but it wouldn't have been as funny. I recognize that the Vulcan lower decker is kind of like Mariner in her rule breaking, but I also think she is kind of like Boimler, because what she's doing is being super efficient and organized and exceeding what she's been instructed to do. And that is what Boimler would do. He's the most organized person on the ship. He wants to show how super efficient he is, and he'll go beyond what he's been instructed to do. If he's told to stack crates, he'll find some way to try to figure out how to make some ship improvement because he wants to impress his superiors.
True.
And, you know, one thing I did like though, and I can see where her the Kelly her comparison is, because at the last when that Vulcan lower decker leaves the captain's office, she does the sarcastic, "Live long and prosper, sir."
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, very
which is, of course, which is like Mariner leaving the captain's office, "Live long and prosper," you know, and doing the gang sign with the Vulcan salute. Don't you do that sarcastic Vulcan salute to me.
Then,
I thought of that too. That was great.
We got more comment from James Clare, also on Facebook. This was probably my favorite episode of Lower Deck so far. I think the line about mating with the enemy in a penal colony is a reference to the admittedly forgettable TNG episode Birthright, where Worf finds a group of Klingons living in a Romulan penal colony and has a sort of love interest who's the daughter of a Klingon prisoner and the Romulan warden. So that's probably...
Yeah, I forgot about that episode,
Yeah, that's a possibility.
That could be, but he's right. That's very forgettable. I almost never think about that episode. Or it's a two-parter, actually, I believe.
Yeah, and I mean, it's where we find out that Worf's dad was dishonored and all that other stuff, you know, at this colony. But yeah, it is forgettable in the way where we get there. Peter Garcia also commented on Facebook, who said, well, CBS delivered, Dom, and gave me a link to StarTrek.com, link to the Lower Decks Ritos shirt. So I had been saying I want to throw my money at Paramount. And of course, the marketing mavens over at Paramount were sure to make sure we had a way to give them money. And let me just say, my shirt is out for delivery as we speak, actually. I ordered it right away. So
I want to get one of those shirts. You can get a coffee mug with the Evil Computer Lab logo on it.
Yes.
You can get glasses, beer glasses with the Cerritos Bar logo on it.
That is pretty cool.
I just haven't ordered them yet because I have to wait till payday.
Right.
I would definitely order a Ritos shirt before a disco shirt.
Yes, totally. So, and then Tom Grellinger sent an email. He said, I noticed in episode 175 on Wedge Douche that you mentioned William Shatner going to suborbital space, where he went where no 90-year-old has ever gone before, and Father Cory's desire to celebrate Mass in space. I actually posed this question to Jimmy on Weird Questions on Catholic Answers Live sometime in the last year or so. He was able to correct my immediate error in that the Eucharist would be valid, but without special provisions would not be licit. I see he did bring up exactly the same issues on this episode as he did when I asked, and he answered the question on Catholic Answers Live. I wanted to share in case anyone wants to go back to the Catholic Answers Live archives and listen to the question and Jimmy's excellent answer.
And I didn't hear Jimmy's initial answer on Catholic Answers Live, but I would make the caveat that it could be licit if it is private. To be a public mass, you do need faculties within the diocese, which, if what the story goes is true, would be the diocese of Orlando, because, of course, the flights launch from there. But if it was a private mass, as a priest, I can celebrate mass privately, like in a hotel room. I've done it on Amtrak train, but it can't be, it would just be me.
Yeah.
There,
My concern about liceity, which for listeners who may not know means lawfulness, is something in conformity with the law or not. Wasn't so much about faculties. It was about needing to take precautions to keep the precious blood from spilling or from fragments of the host that would retain the real presence going other places. And so it would be illicit if you don't take precautions to avoid those things.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's something that would definitely have to be thought about, how to do like a chalice with some kind of lid or something like that so that the precious blood doesn't float away.
And how do you do the fraction rite, where you break off a piece of the host and put it in the precious blood?
Exactly.
Right. You would have to be carefully thought through all of those steps. Yeah.
And I'm willing to figure that out.
Rotational gravity solves so much.
Yeah.
Just spin it up.
Yeah. The interesting thing about the jurisdiction, diocesan jurisdiction, is that the famous thing goes back that the Bishop of Orlando, where all of the Apollo flights took off from, would be the Bishop of the Moon, because that's where they launch from. But where all these private ones are launching from all kinds of places now, Texas and other places.
And the story goes that shortly after the Apollo missions were started, after Apollo 11, the Bishop of Orlando went to Rome for his Ad Limina visit and met Paul VI and introduced himself as the Bishop of the Moon. And I guess so Paul VI just kind of looked at him like, what?
All right. So thank you all for your comments, your feedback. We love getting your feedback, and we'd love to get more. So we do want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create Secrets of Star Trek, including Sean T., David S., Mark L., Robert C., and Chris E. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Trek and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So that's it from us. We'd love to hear, again, what you think of First Contact, this last episode of the second season of Lower Decks. You can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/trek or our Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. You can, sorry, I was trying to subtly look and see what is supposed to be coming up next week. We'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the next episode, which should be, as I'm looking here, The War Without, The War Within, the penultimate episode of the first season of Discovery. So we're getting very close to the end of that first season and the end of talking about Discovery. Until then, Jimmy Akin, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Star Trek.
Thank you, and I know it looks bad for Captain Freeman right now, but Cerritos strong.
And Father Cory Sticha, thank you as well.
Thank you, Dom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Star Trek on StarQuest. And remember, it sounds like betrayal, but with clapping.